Hello, cubs. Welcome back to my cozy den. We're here once more at the Blue Palace in Solitude, Skyrim for another book reading. So grab yourself a tankard of mead and pull up a bench. I hope you enjoy this series, and if you have any suggestions or requests for what to read next, then let me know in the comments below. And now we will continue our run of The Wolf Queen by Wahine Yarth, book number 4, from the pen of the 1st century 3rd era sage Montakai. 3rd era 109. 10 years after being crowned Emperor of Tamriel, Antiochus Septim had impressed his subjects with little but the enormity of his lust for carnal pleasures. By his second wife, Gisela, he had a daughter in the year 104, who he named Kintira, after his great-great-great-grandaunt, the Empress. Enormously fat and marked by every venereal disease known to the healers, Antiochus spent little time on politics. His siblings, by marked contrast, excelled in this field. Magnus had married Helena, the Cyrodiil queen of Lilmuth, the Argonian priest-king having been executed, and was representing the imperial interests in Blackmarsh admirably. Sepphoris and his wife Bianchi were ruling the Hammerfell kingdom of Ghislaine with a healthy brood of children. But no one was more politically active than Potema, the Wolf Queen of the Skyrim Kingdom of Solitude. 9 years after the death of her husband, King Mantiarco, Potema still ruled as regent for her young son, Uriel. Their court had become very fashionable, particularly for rulers who had a grudge to bear against the emperor. All of the kings of Skyrim visited Castle Solitude regularly, and over the years, emissaries from the lands of Morrowind and High Rock did as well. Some guests came from even further away. 3rd era 110. Potema stood at the harbour and watched the boat from Pyandania arrive. Against the grey breaking waves where she had seen so many vessels of Tamrielic manufacture, it looked less than exotic. Insectoid, certainly, with its membranous sails and rugged chitin hull, but she had seen similar, if not identical seacraft in Morrowind. No, if not for the flag, which was markedly alien, she would not have picked out the ship from the others in the harbour. As the salty mist ballooned around her, she held out her hand in welcome to the visitors from another island empire. The men aboard were not merely pale, they were entirely colourless, as if their flesh were made of some white, limpid jelly. But she had been forewarned. At the arrival of the king and his translator, she looked directly into their blank eyes and offered her hand. The king made noises. His Great Majesty King Orgnum, said the translator haltingly. expresses his delight at your beauty. He thanks you for giving him refuge from these dangerous seas. You speak Cyrodiilic very well, said Patima. I am fluent in the languages of 4 continents, said the translator. I can speak to the denizens of my own country, Pyandania, as well as those of Atmora, Akavir, and here, in Tamriel. Yours is the easiest, actually. I was looking forward to this voyage. Please tell His Highness that he is welcome here, and that I am entirely at his disposal, said Patima, smiling. Then she added, You understand the context, that I am just being polite. Of course, said the translator, and then made several noises at the king, which the king reacted to with a smile. While they conversed, Patima looked up the dock and saw the now familiar grey cloaks watching her while they spoke with Levlet, Antiochus's man. The Sijic order from the Somerset Isle. Very bothersome. My diplomatic emissary, Lord Voken, will show you to your rooms, said Patima. Unfortunately, I have some other guests as well who require my attention. I hope your Great Majesty understands. His Great Majesty King Orgnum did understand, and Patima made arrangements to dine with the Pandanians that evening. Meeting with the Sijic order required all of her concentration. She dressed in her simplest black and gold robe and went to her stateroom to prepare. Her son, Uriel, was on the throne, playing with his pet Ducat. Good morning, Mum. Good morning, darling, said Patima, lifting her son in the air with feigned strain. Tell us, but you're heavy. I don't think I've ever carried such a heavy 10-year-old. That's probably because I'm 11, said Uriel, perfectly aware of his mother's tricks. And you're going to say that as an 11-year-old, I should probably be with my tutor. I was fanatical about studying at your age, said Patima. I am king, said Uriel petulantly. But don't be satisfied with that, said Patima. By all rights, you should be emperor already. You understand that, don't you? Uriel nodded his head. Patima took a moment to marvel at his likeness to the portraits of Tiber Septim. The same ruthless brow and powerful chin. When he was older and lost his baby fat, he'd be a spitting image of his great-great-great-great-great-granduncle. Behind her, she heard the door opening and an usher bringing in several grey cloaks. She stiffened slightly, and Uriel, on cue, jumped down from the throne and left the stateroom, pausing to greet the most important of the Sijics. Good morning, Master Celerus, he said, enunciating each syllable with a regal accent that made Patima's heart soar. I hope your accommodations at Castle Solitude meet with your approval. They do, King Uriel, thank you, said Celerus, delighted and charmed. Celerus and his Sigics entered the chamber, and the door was shut behind them. Patima sat only for a moment on the throne before stepping off the dais and greeting her guests. "I am so sorry to have kept you waiting," said Patima. "To think that you sailed all the way here from the Somerset Isles, and I should keep you waiting any longer. You must forgive me." "It's not all that long a voyage," said one of the grey cloaks angrily. "It isn't as if we sailed all the way from Pyandonia." "Ah, you've seen my most recent guests, King Organum and his retinue," said Pratima breezily. "I suppose you think it unusual, me entertaining them? As we all know, the Pyandonians mean to invade Tamriel. You are, I take it, as neutral in this as you are in all political matters?" "Of course," said Celerus proudly. "We have nothing to gain or lose by the invasion. The Sigic Order preceded the organization of Tamriel under the Septim Dynasty, and we shall survive under any political regime." "Rather like a flea on whatever Mongol happens along, aren't you?" said Patima, narrowing her eyes. "Don't overestimate your importance, Celerus. Your order's child, the Mages Guild, has twice the power you have, and they are entirely on my side. We are in the process of making an agreement with King Organum. When the Pyandonians take over, and I am in my proper place as Empress of this continent, then you shall know your proper place in the order of things." With a majestic stride, Patima left the stateroom, leaving the grey cloaks to look from one to the other. "We must speak to Lord Levlet," said one of the grey cloaks. "Yes," said Celerus. "Perhaps we should." Levlet was quickly found at his usual place at the Moon and Nausea Tavern. As the three grey cloaks entered, led by Celerus, the smoke and the noise seemed to die in their path. Even the smell of tobacco and flin dissipated in their wake. He rose, and they escorted them to a small room upstairs. "You've reconsidered," said Levlet with a broad smile. "Your Emperor," said Celerus, and then correcting himself. "Our Emperor originally asked for our support in defending the west coast of Tamriel from the Pyandonian fleet, in return for 12 million gold pieces. We offered our services at 50. Upon reflection on the dangers that a Pyandonian invasion would have, we accept his earlier offer." "Ah, the Mages Guild have generously, perhaps for as low as 10 million gold pieces," said Celerus quickly. Over the course of dinner, Patima promised King Organum through the interpreter to lead an insurrection against her brother. She was delighted to discover that her capacity for lying worked in many different cultures. Fatima shared her bed that night with King Orgnum, as it seemed the polite and diplomatic thing to do. As it turned out, he was one of the better lovers she had ever had. He gave her some herbs before beginning that made her feel as if she was floating on the surface of time, conscious only of the gestures of love after she had found herself making them. She felt herself like the cooling mist, quenching the fire of his lust over and over and over again. In the morning, when he kissed her on the cheek and said with his bold white eyes that he was leaving her, she felt a stab of regret. The ship left the harbour that morning, en route to the Somerset Isles and the imminent invasions. She waved them off to sea as she heard footsteps behind her. It was Levlet. "They will do it for 8 million, Your Highness," he said. "Thank Mara," said Fatima. "I need more time for an insurrection. Pay them from my treasury, and then go to the imperial city and get the 12 million from Antiochus. We should make a good profit from this game, and you, of course, will have your share." 3 months later, Fatima heard that the fleet of the Pyandanians had been utterly destroyed by a storm that had appeared suddenly off the Isle of Artaeum, the home port of the Sijic Order. King Orgnum and all of his ships had been utterly annihilated. "Sometimes making people hate you," she said, holding her son Uriel close, "is how you make a profit." And there you have it, cubs. Until next time, stay cozy.